breaking his heart. Mark broke my heart the day before Valentine's Day. He was in the shower when his dentist texted him with nude pics and a time for him to show up. The sneaky method to hide her number in his phone wasn't even necessary. I hadn't even gone through his contacts. The images just popped onto the screen. I had trusted him absolutely. I hid my tears as he went off to work. He came home late that night, freshly showered. The notion came to me as I lay awake. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. He had broken my heart. I was gonna break his. Fair is fair. On Valentine's Day, at our big date, I broke up with him. I did it loudly, publicly. I made sure our waiter heard it all. But Mark took it in stride. That's what infuriated me most. Not the infidelity or the lies, but he didn't care about me. My hatred meant nothing to him. It was a profound injustice to have a man mean that much to me when I meant nothing to him. I raged against it, screaming and weeping, onto my steering wheel as I drove home all alone. But I felt I could still break his heart if I tried. It's a simple question of how far I was willing to go, and a question of whether I was an insignificant thing to be ignored and cast aside, or if I was the person you didn't dare cross. I agonized. Did I dare to take a stand? If not over this, then where exactly was the line people couldn't cross with me? 2 days later, I texted him to come over. I missed him. I was sorry. He didn't seem to care at all until I implied makeup sex was on the table. Then he wanted to see me again. Breaking his heart was much harder than I thought it would be. It took real effort to crack through the rib cage, but it was worth it. Bin flowers. One woman's trash is another woman's Valentine's Day bouquet, apparently. It's a sight that would easily grab my attention on an evening commute home, especially tonight. A dozen long-stemmed scarlet roses perched on the rim of a sidewalk trash can. There's something so inherently dramatic about a publicly rejected offer of love, like one of those failed proposals on live TV. Intrigued, I stopped near the bin to smoke my 1 per month cigarette, giving me time to ponder the origins of the mystery Valentine's Day flowers. What could have transpired that would make a woman dump an arrangement of fresh, likely expensive roses in the trash? She must have caught her man cheating. I contemplate between drags. Unless, what if she was the one cheating? And this was her last-ditch attempt to hide the affair. My mind buzzes over the possibilities. Rose-giving dude might have just been a total stalker. Even I'd throw away good flowers if they came from a creeper. Or maybe it was the girl that was the stalker. Hell, what if there was no girl, and it was some gay couple's abandoned flowers the whole time? I butt out my cigarette and shrewdly consider taking the mysterious binned roses for myself. Surely you can do better than dirty bin flowers, Mel, I tell myself. You could catch a disease or bring a bug infestation home. Then again, they would just go to waste sitting in the trash. I can't remember the last time a guy bought me flowers. Waste not, want not, right? Against my better judgment, I decided to salvage the flowers. But as I go to pick them up, a folded note slips from inside the bouquet. It has been 1 month to the day since you were taken from us in this very spot. It reads in elegant cursive. Rest peacefully, our beloved Evelyn. Love, your family. Embarrassment drops onto me like an anvil. Those weren't discarded Valentine Day flowers. Those were memorial flowers for some poor girl who was murdered right where I'm standing exactly 1 month ago. I nearly nicked someone's memorial marker. What the hell is wrong with me? Before I can process this notion further, however, I feel the blade of a knife press against my neck. I realize too late that I'm not the only person with a 1 per month habit. The flowers return to where they were laid as Evelyn's killer slits my throat open. Homemade brownies. My son doesn't want to buy generic cartoon cardboard Valentines this year. The other 8-year-olds will pass out Hulk and Wonder Woman cards with cheesy one-liners like, "Have a smashing Valentine's Day," or "You're wonderful." Maybe the classic Snoopy asking that you be mine, but not my Nick. My heart swelled with pride as Nick refused my assistance, baking his special homemade brownies, demanding that he make them all by himself. I insisted that I do all oven and knife-related activities, but otherwise let my little baker do his thing. Nick has been struggling to make friends at school, and my heart soared at the idea of him being the better person, giving his classmates such a sweet peace offering. At the end of the process, my kitchen was a mess. Flour, eggshells, and chocolate covered the walls and counters, but it was worth it. In the middle of the kitchen table sat a plate overflowing with beautiful dark chocolate brownies, the moist sweet crumbling slightly in the warm air. They were frosted with a creamy white icing, littered with sprinkles, small splashes of iridescent pinks and reds. They were absolutely perfect. Nick was so protective of them, refusing to let me or my husband try one, or even for me to wrap them in cling wrap, insisting that he do it himself. I kissed him on the forehead, and he walked to the bus, practically jumping in his boots with excitement at sharing his handmade treats. I didn't find the empty bottle of Drano until that afternoon as I was cleaning up the mess. I lunged for my phone resting on the counter by the stove, but I buckled with an intense cramp before my fingers reached. I shouldn't have snuck one when he wasn't looking. Heart-shaped box. It's been 8 months since the incident, and I'm still hearing sirens in my sleep. It was a Thursday evening. I came home from work to an empty house. My wife Lena's clothes and phone weren't missing. Her cell phone sat abandoned on our counter, vibrating with calls and notifications. The only thing signifying that she hadn't been abducted was her missing car. I hadn't even completed all 3 numbers of 911 when police officers came to my door. Our neighbor Janice stood behind them, eyes rimmed red with tears. She had asked Lena to pick up her son Thomas from school due to a work emergency, meaning he was also missing. They questioned Janice and I repeatedly over the following weeks to no avail. We knew less than they did. No one wanted our loved ones home more than we did. Janice and I got the answers we asked for about 2 months later, but they weren't the ones we wanted. Lena's car was found burned up, crushed like a tin can. Someone saw a set of tire tracks heading off the mountainside and called it in once they saw the wreckage at the bottom. This New Year's Eve, I finally got the courage to try and remove the last of Lena's clothes from the house. The closet had been cleared, leaving only the items she kept in the linen trunk. I painstakingly packed up her favorite skirts, dresses, and shoes. My heart felt emptier with every new item I removed from it. My heart broke to find a heart-shaped box at the bottom, one I'd never seen before. A tag was taped atop it, my name scrawled across it in red ink. There was no lock, no key to be found, only a simple metal clasp kept me from the last gift my wife would ever give me. My fingers fumbled to open it in a frenzied anticipation. The endless possibilities of her love called to me from inside. Once it opened, I felt my soul freeze and then shatter. Tears ran down my face as I punched our closet walls until my knuckles bled. Laid inside was a simple scrap of bloodied paper, a set of latitude and longitude coordinates, which I found led to the same mountainside her car was found at the bottom of. Was written on it, in my wife's handwriting, along with a message. Dear Tobin, I know about you and Janice. It always killed me that Thomas had your eyes. Lena. The Story Contest. There was a lovely little inn in a clearing just off of the forest road. It boasted warm beds, clean floors, hot food, and good company. For travelers heading south, it was the last comfort stop before enduring the great journey. It was also the first place to rest and get warm for the ones coming north out of the great forest. The innkeeper had a tradition. On special occasions, he would hold a contest among his guests. The winner would stay the night without pay for bed and breakfast. The contest was storytelling. It was a grand way to pass holidays and frozen winter nights. And the prize meant everyone tried hard to entertain each other. The innkeeper would gather his guests into the common area to hear the stories. The first man told a folk story of a clever boy who outwitted the devil's bargain to gain the hand of the princess and still keep his soul. A sailor told of magnificent sea monsters, strange snakes and dragons that drifted in the northern seas. The inland listeners were unnerved and intrigued. A young mother with a toddler on her lap told a ghost story that the innkeeper had heard before. The innkeeper had heard them all before. He rarely heard new material, just the same dozen stories wrapped up and presented in slightly different ways. An old woman stepped up to speak. Her dirty gray hair shook in a frame around her face, and she spoke. It was a fine and pleasant day when I met him. It was the feast of St. Valentine, and I was a giddy young girl. It was so romantic, so enchanting. The dancing and the boys and the sweet wine made me have great sighs of passion for what I couldn't have. Oh, I was in a proper mood when I met him. He was beautiful, like a marble statue brought to life. I didn't recognize him, and his glamour blinded me to just how odd that was. His touch thrilled me. He took me away to the woods, where we danced a very ancient dance together. He changed while he was with me. He was still male, but not a man. Still beautiful, but no warmth. He laughed as I realized the danger. A very bright, cruel, merry laugh it was, like a tomcat mocking a mouse in his claws. When he was done, I cried. That made him laugh more. I closed my eyes and willed myself to sleep. When I woke, I was alone. And when I went home didn't know me. It's dangerous to cavort with the elves. They don't care about anything but having fun. The old woman paused to blink back tears. That was last year. I'll be 17 in a month, and my life is almost over. At the end of the night, the innkeeper declared her the winner. An old woman like that wouldn't have much coin anyways, and winter was harsh. The blooming. Millie, wake up! Come on, it's your 18th birthday. Today's a very special day. Mom's working, so you get to spend the whole day with me. Meet me in the living room when you're ready. My sister Elena sings cheerfully at me while shaking my mattress. I get out of bed and stare in my mirror with a disheartening annoyance. My mousy brown hair lays as limp as death, and my eyes are so unremarkable that barely anyone knows what color they are. My spindly frame, flat all over like a boy, leaves a lot to be desired. I'm not the prettiest of girls where I come from, and definitely not as beautiful as Elena. She's 25 and has been perfect since, well, before I was born. I trudge down the hall and pour some cereal into a bowl. Elena's perched on a chair, eyes brimming with excitement. She starts in before I even sit down. Okay, Millie, hear me out. The women in our family have always been a little different. Every Valentine's Day after our 18th birthdays, something called the blooming takes place. It sounds weird. Just listen. You were born on February 13th, so there's not much time to teach you everything. Go out tomorrow and find the right man. If you feel one drawing your spirit near, that's the one you want. What? She continues, despite my incredulous expression. Meet him for a date and let him take you home. Make sure he lives alone. There are several ways to find out without being obvious. Let nature take its course and call me the next day. Tell me everything. By this point, she had her hands on my shoulders and was looking into my eyes. So, I listened. A tall and handsome man catches my eye the next night. I pretend it's still my birthday. I'm amazed at how easy this is. He seems captivated by everything I say. He lives alone and takes me home. Nature takes its course. I wake up the next day, sore but happy. He's still lying there peacefully. I snuggle him. He feels like cold marble against my skin. Eyes open, no pulse, like a withered grape left in the hot sun. I call Elena, panicked, and give her the address. When I open his door, she's smiling wide, completely calm. Tears are streaming down my face. Elena, help me. What did I do wrong? I did exactly what you told me to do. She gathers me into a hug. Nothing. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. I look at her, more confused. Millie, go look in the mirror. I go into his bathroom and look at myself. My eyes are blue, like Caribbean water. My hair a flowing mane of chestnut curls. My body curvaceous and beautiful. I understand now. I understand everything. And this is going to be so much fun. The last picnic. She could hear the waves crashing onto the beach far below. A cool, gentle breeze, tinged salty, swirled around her and caressed her face lightly. How about right here? She suggested, pointing at a patch of grass a dozen or so feet from the edge. The meadow ended where a sheer 50-foot cliff began, stretching all the way down to a rocky beach. Sure, he replied, before laying out a large musty mat over the damp grass. A large flock of birds suddenly emerged from the forest, flying noisily overhead, chirping, tweeting, and caw-cawing as they went. He called her over. Out came a collection of various foods and treats and drinks. A veritable feast indeed. But something was missing. Arguably, the most important thing of all. He rummaged around, unpeeling wrappers and opening containers, looking in the empty basket before he finally emerged with his quarry, a bottle of vintage champagne. A faint buzzing, like the ominous sound of nests of wasps in a forest makes, began humming away in the distance. A sliver of terror flitted across his face as he reached for the bottle. Pop went the cork, and 2 glasses were soon filled with gold, fizzy liquid, swarms of bubbles swimming to the top. "Happy Valentine's Day, my love," he said. Glasses clinked, and the man and the woman looked out towards the ocean, vast and blue, its waves rolling slowly towards the coast. They leaned against each other, her head against his shoulder, and sipped their champagne. The buzzing grew louder, and twigs and branches could be heard snapping. The man tried to ignore it, tried to pretend that everything was all right. Stammering, he asked her if she remembered the cake at their wedding, the one covered with Kit Kats. His wife chuckled and replied that she did, adding that though her mother had scoffed at the ridiculous cake, she ended up being the only one to go back for seconds. The hum soon gave way to a continuous and thunderous roar, punctuated by ear-splitting explosions. The man turned around to look and gasped. An enormous gray cloud was emerging out of the tree line some 100 yards back. "Hey, look at me." He felt her grab his hand. He looked around, his eyes meeting hers. "I'm scared. I'm so scared," he wept. "Remember the first time we met?" The roar deafening like an oncoming storm. "At that beach? Back home, when you were trying to get out of the rain?" He smiled and nodded, tears forming in his eyes. Squirrels, deer, foxes, animals of all shapes and sizes ran past them. "It's okay. I'm here." The woman took his face in her hands and kissed him. There they stood in each other's embrace as a gargantuan swarm surged towards them, a trillion tiny machines hell-bent on devouring everything in their path. "I love you," they both said, as a ravenous flood engulfed them. I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel. Your generosity means the world to me. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness or Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank you all for your support, your kindness, and your encouragement. I appreciate it so very much. Until next time.